Hey, how you doing? This is Hold the Truth Hostage, where if the truth was so important, we would hold it hostage and refuse lies as a negotiation. So now this is my first video where I'll dive deep into what I call the Return to Logic series. The reason I'm doing this is that a great subscriber who I'll link his name on the description. A great subscriber informed me that he came from a video I was on. I was a guest of Coach Greg Adams. I've been jumping into becoming more of a guest and calling in from Red Pill channels such as Coach Greg Adams, the Anthony Spade channel. Now, my journey, and I'm gonna start off by saying this, I'm not a dating coach. I'm more of a life strategist. I believe, in fact, and I know that we have to plan and be aware of life. That this is a game of. It's not even 3D chess. This is a game of, holistic chess. I've soon realized that I think in a holistic way. Holistic means you think of everything on a whole level and broken apart. So I'm always thinking of how things fit and how things are separated at the same time. So that's one of my things. Now, when I didn't start into the red pill, really. I jumped and started into a channel called, I forget my man's name. I just had his name, but he had the rabbit hole series where his name was David Carroll. He had a rabbit hole series where he dives into the black community, what we're going through, and our perspective as men and what we face as black men in the black community. So I jumped into that. I went into the rabbit hole. He dived deep into, abortion. He dived into, what separates the black man and the black woman. Then I jumped deeper in and I went into the red pill where I saw and they explained, like I've always been a man who I didn't believe in getting married. The reason I didn't believe in marriage was that, I don't agree with that. I need to pay for us to be unified. That doesn't make sense. We're together. That's how I live. So I wasn't a man who believed in marriage a long time. I didn't believe or think about it as an option, because I've always thought about it as, okay, if you're with a girl, you're with this chick, you're with her, and you're with her until y'all not together. Well, why would I need to sign a piece of paper? We're both adults. Like we need a, I look at the marriage certificate like a hall pass. I need a hall pass that says we're married, we're together. That means you're not really loyal to that person. If you need a certificate and a hall pass that says y'all married and y'all together, then it's a fictional state of existence, because that means you're not really with that person for who they are, and their approval is not your priority. It's your priority is getting the approval, the hall pass from, be it the government or whoever gives away these marriage certificates. Now, when I dive deeper into the red pill exposed to me a lot of things. It exposed, because I've always been a person in a pursuing logic. That's what I've always been, pursuing logic. I've gotten lost around the way, but what the red pill did, it remolded me as a man. It made me understand that you as a man have to be your sole priority. You're your priority. Nothing comes after you. Nothing comes before you. You should never be, as a man, secondary. You should never look at yourself and think your wants and your needs are secondary. That's the biggest thing the red pill taught me, was that as a man, you have to be the priority, because that's how it's always been. What's funny is how people like to tease and laugh about cavemen and say you're thinking like a caveman and all that. But the cavemen didn't think about feelings. They didn't. I'll give you a test right now you could do. I want you to put your hands over your eyes and I want you to try to see the world with your feelings. Now ask yourself, how clear is the world? How clear is the world as you look with your feelings? That's right, you see nothing. You see nothing but your feelings. And you know, what are you feeling now? You're feeling stupid. You're feeling kind of anxious or lost. That's the lens that they've created to have most men look at the world with their feelings. Now, this isn't gonna be a long video. You know, it's gonna be pretty, about 10 minutes and up. Now, after I went into the red pill showed me the priority, because you know I'm about 6'7", but I've always had a very, very hard time when it came to confidence in who I am. You know, like behind closed doors, I was struggling with who I am. You know, as a man. You know, like I won't go into. I'll let that pass. I won't go into too much detail, but you know, growing up, you know, I had my uncles and so on. Now I'll go into deeper into my life, but I didn't have a mirror reflection to look at as a role model, a male role model. So, you know, I would be watching, for example, Pokemon. You know, when you grow up black, you don't see that many images of yourself. So I had moments where my confidence was so low that, you know, I was cursing myself, like, why wasn't I born with spiky hair, or why wasn't I born white, and so on. You know, because all you see is that image, you know, that image of, you know, not yourself and so on. You can't relate. And when you do see your image as a black person, it tends to be crime, violence, and so on. But, you know, that's for another video. I'm just building up, you know, awareness. So now, after I ingested the red pill, I went through the red pill rage. Because the biggest thing about the red pill ingestion is that a man's whole life is built upon, you know, when will he get a woman? When will he settle down? And listen to that word, settle down. Now, I could go into deeper detail about settling down, but that'll be another video. But let's just say that settling down is, for a man, it's weakness. You know, it's absolute weakness in underselling your value. A man should never settle down, you know, because we're not designed to settle down. We're designed to make compromises with our fellow man. You know, like you have a peace treaty. Let's say we both are going to war as two men. You know, we come to a compromise. None of us settle down. We come to a compromise, and we made a compromise that equals a peace treaty. That's how you gotta think. You gotta look at life like you're, in all honesty, you have to look at the world that everyone is, you know, your fellow man in a sense, because you got to think about it. Even with all this feminizing of men and so on, we still look at each other as we've always done. We look at each other's competition. We look at each other's competition, and we don't hold back when it comes to one another. So that's how you got to look at the world. The world is your biggest competitor. You know, now in ingesting a red pill, there was a point of rage towards women and anger and so on, because your whole life in this system is predicated on how you as a man can serve a woman, when in actuality that is completely and absolute BS. You know, it's absolute weakness. You know, that's what that's built upon. That's built upon weakness. You know, you trying to serve a woman and so on. That is as a man, that is weakness. Yeah, a lot of people have been taught to just hear things that you didn't even say. You know, he said all. He didn't. He said all are like this. No, the truth is this, to touch up on the government when it came to welfare. Some of the white people in government, and let's just say Hillary Clinton looked up to this lady called Margaret Thatcher, and they thought of a great plan. We have to eliminate the black family. Now, a lot of the white men that went with this thought, oh, this is just gonna mess with the black family, not us. But a lot of white people don't get it, that the government always tests things on the blacks and minorities. They're the testing ground before they unleash it upon the entire majority. So what the government went about with the welfare is they wanted to replace dependency on the father. A lot of MGTOW channels, Red Pill and stuff, they speak about logic, they speak about the family. They don't get it, that the government wants to be the sole provider and dependency in the life of a woman. They do not want a man to play any role in that. So with the welfare programs, they replaced man being welfare. So the government would knock on the door of the black family, and this is in the 50s. They would knock on the door, and I saw this and I really got inspired by this from a channel which I'll share called Sad Black Woman. This is a channel, he doesn't post a lot, but he made this great documentary. It was beautiful. But basically, the government knocked on the door of the black family and said, oh, you're down, we'll help you. Now, mind you, this is the same government that's allowing people to hang and kill black men all day, every day. So what they did, they knocked on the door and told the wife, we'll help you. If you throw the father out, we'll help you. You know, and some of the black men went along with it. You know, I'll just go outside a few times and come back home without understanding that they were making themselves open to absolute destruction. You see, the Democratic Party knew that once they removed the man out of the picture, the whole community would be built upon and reliant upon them, you know. And I'll go into more details into that, but it removed the role of the man. Now, fast forward into the 1950s, when a Republican put the no-fault divorce, you know, into action, where, you know, it punished the man, but it rewarded the government, made the government more into the eyes of the woman being dependent on the government. Now, I could go into deeper detail, but, you know, I'm gonna get lost into it, and I'll make a separate video on that. Because a lot of MGTOW and Red Pill channels, they don't cover the origin. They don't cover the origin. They don't cover beyond the surface level. Okay, it's women this, women that. It's got nothing to do with women. Once you, you know, I say this, a lot of men, the majority of men can take the red pill. You know, they could take the red pill with a drink of water. About to drink a little water quick. Man, I had to get that water in me. Now, a lot of men can drink the red pill, but not, and I'd say less than 5% can inject the red pill. As in, you take it straight to the vein. Not many can take the red pill in the vein. Once you take the red pill into your veins, you understand that you can't blame women for this. You can't blame women at all. In fact, you have to blame your fellow man, because who established the government? Who was the majority of the governing body at that time? It was all men. So when women say blame men, they actually aren't wrong. They're absolutely right. You know, there's no missing that. And there's a lot of channels that will, because, you know, they're ignorant to the, and I'm not teasing or dissing any channel, it's just the facts. The facts are you're ignorant to the truth. That's why I call myself Hold the Truth Hostage, because you have to hold the truth hostage. And once you understand the truth and you've held it hostage and you talk to it, you understand the facts. You go beyond the surface. It wasn't your baby mother that kicked you out and put you on child support. It wasn't her. It was you as soon as you jumped into a relationship with a person that is existing dependent on the government. You know, you can't, in today's age, why relationships won't work is that back in the day, the government stayed away. We're gonna handle laws, taxes, and, you know, make it, you know, stuff that matters. And, you know, we'll handle certain domestic cases, but we won't be in the middle. Right now, you go into a relationship with a woman, you're in the middle. There's a middleman between you and her. It's called the government, and the government is biased. The government wants to put you as a man in prison and make profit off of you. Remember, slavery is legal when you're a prisoner. And remember, what does the United States have? The highest level of incarceration. Now, you don't get to the highest level of incarceration without planning for it, you know, and that's what we're facing here. The high level of incarceration is actually a government planned and government mandated affair. They have far more to gain with a man in prison than they have with a man free, you know, and that's how the government really works. So in actuality, any man has to understand when you're going on a date, there's a middleman. That middleman is the government. The government is right in the middle, and the government is right and always on her side. The government is biased towards you, so you're never dating a woman. A woman is never single. And you know, a lot of guys like to say it's your turn and so on. Well, let me tell you this, it's never been your turn. She's never been single. She's been in an affair from birth with the government when it started, you know, and I'll go deeper into that. So now, how did I arrive to Logic? You know, I want to thank, you want to thank Coach Greg Adams. He's dropped a lot of fire. I followed Anthony Spade. He's dropped a lot of fire. Channel y'all need, I used to follow when it used to be available, called MGTOW's Freedom. I followed Sandman. I followed, you know what I'm saying? Australian MGTOW. I followed him. I followed Turd Flinging Monkey. I followed, Alpha Male Strategy. I followed a lot of them. I still do. Now, do I watch a lot of all their content as much? I don't participate as much because a lot of these Red Pill channels and MGTOW channels, they seem to hit the ceiling. They hit the ceiling where, you know, it's blame women, blame women, blame women, blame women. They don't look at the further aspect. Let me give you an example. What would happen if you gave your 4-year-old daughter access to the keys into your car and she got into an accident, crashed it, destroyed your car? Are you gonna blame your 4-year-old daughter? Well, that's what happens when the government full of men gave women an unfair advantage. You know, the unfair advantage is that a lot of men gave women voting rights, which they deserve voting rights. But what the government did is they left a major loophole. I cover this on my essay on male suicide. The government left a major loophole. The major loophole is that they do not equally count the sexes. What I mean by that is if 500,000 men vote and 700,000 women vote, they count them all. They count all the votes instead of, you know what, 500,000 men voted, so only 500,000 votes from the women's side will count. They should equalize it based on the lowest amount of votes from the sexes, you know, to a certain extent. I could go deeper into detail, but there's certain things I can't talk about because the channel would be striked, it would be destroyed, be attacked. So, you know, I'll have an alternative to how I can talk to that. Because YouTube, in all honesty, YouTube has become a site for advertising. It's about advertisement. Even with the whole membership thing, you set up a membership, what's stopping YouTube from killing your channel? So, there's certain things I'll cover later on when I find a way to set up an alternative, you know. But in all honesty, that's what's happened. So this means for example, if 750,000 men voted and let's say 400,000 women voted, they count all of them as they count all the votes instead of equalizing them. It's left the way where the government, remember, the government sells dependency, and women need something to depend on, because the truth is, women aren't stronger than men. So if for example a group of savage men, attacked a lot of women, those women wouldn't have a way to defend themselves. They need to depend on something, and it's in their nature. It's perfectly natural. They need to depend on something to protect them and provide. It's natural. It's how all, you even have that with the perfect example, and I'm gonna be doing a video soon on the perfect example is the lion pride. The male lion goes around roaming around the territory to protect and ensure that other male lions don't come in and savagely kill off their offspring. I know I'm rambling a lot, I'm going in multiple directions, but now I know like I said, I know I'm rambling and going in multiple directions, but that's how a conversation usually is. Now, let me get back on board. So now, how did I become a man of absolute logic? I've always been a person that I used to talk to myself when I was little, because I wasn't born here. Used to get in a lot of fights, targeted, attacked. So, to keep myself stable, I developed more mental awareness. You know what I mean? And, I used to be the little grunt, coming from another country. Used to be attacked because I'm a foreigner, you know. So I had to learn to survive. I had to learn to run away, dodge and stuff like that. And, father wasn't around, so you weren't being taught to fight back and stuff like that. So I became I was like prey. I was like a gazelle, Gazelles always being hunted and attacked by lions, cheetahs, whatever. You were being attacked at all fronts. So I learned to look at things and mentally prepare for the attack. And then I grew into the body of I grew into 6'7". I grew into went from the guy being hunted to the guy that could be the hunter and bully people. But from being used to being bullied to now being at the size where I could bully people, I realized it ain't worth it. It's not something I plan on doing. So now, what you have to understand as a man, and why I went into absolute logic, is that I'm a person where I live in my mind. I look at, it's like I used to watch Gundam. It's like the body, I look at the body like it's an instrument. The body's an instrument, and the mind is where I truly am. The body, I'm just piloting it. And what you have to understand as a man, you have to live by the laws of absolute logic. And you have to live by what I call a one-strike lifestyle. The one-strike lifestyle, you have to understand, you only have one strike. You're the one they're targeting for imprisonment. You only have one strike, You gotta understand in life that you only have one strike. You gotta live by the one strike principle. The reason I say you live by one strike is that, think about it, when your wife, the government doesn't give men, the government doesn't give men second chances. Now if you have fame and fortune, you could get a second chance. But for the most part, if you're a regular man, all they need is one strike. All they need is one strike to finish you. So you got to live by the one strike lifestyle. Now, I kind of altered it from, to pay respect to Coach Greg Adams' free agent lifestyle. Free agent lifestyle, I respect it. But, if you want to go further and you want to go even beyond that, No disrespect to the free agent lifestyle. To me, there's always progression. You started out red pill. You started out blue pill, then you became red pill. And if you're so scared, you go purple pill. There's always a progression. So then you go MGTOW. Then with Coach Greg Adams' lifestyle, the free agent lifestyle, you live like a free agent. But I'd say beyond the free agent lifestyle, and the next level is the one strike lifestyle. The one strike lifestyle, you got to understand. You being a man, that all it takes is one strike. One strike and you're out. Some chick puts a false, they put an accusation on you, one strike, because you're guilty and you can't be proven innocent. Even if you are innocent, you can't, because you have to understand. Now, this is for people that watch JoJo Bizarre. You have to understand that the government's number one stand is the female. The government stand is the female. And a stand is basically something the government can summon and so on. The government's ultimate power and ultimate bait for all men is the female stand. Or I could make it, if you didn't watch JoJo's Bizarre, the woman is the puppet of the government. So you have to understand as a man that you're seeking to date a puppet, And, I'll further elaborate on that, but let me stop before this video goes extremely long. But in reality, you gotta live by the one strike lifestyle. You as a man only have one strike. Now, your priority in life, as it's always been as a man, it's your own safety, health, and your own protection. Because if you're not safe, healthy, you're not good to yourself, you're not good to anyone. So your main goal in life is to live, live by the laws of logic. I once was religious, I was a religious man. And then I was talking to a friend of mine when I was, I think, in 7th or 8th grade. And we spoke about who's really God. If a man has a gun aimed at me, at that moment, that person is replicating the essence of God. That person can either choose to let me live or die. And I came to the realization that, am I religious or am I afraid of religion? Then I realized it's fear. They always sell you religion through fear and propaganda versus here are the enlightenment choices and so on. But, what I've arrived now, when I really went into the laws of logic, as I started to, after I left behind religion, start to look at the laws of nature. The laws of nature have not changed. Man's location, our equipment, our development, our society, the laws of nature have not changed. And what I've come to realize, and if you want to live by logic and be a logical man, you have to live by the laws of nature. I mean, look at this coronavirus. The biggest thing the coronavirus did is it woke up man's inner survival instinct. Because of coronavirus, all the supermarkets were closed. All the movie theaters were closed. All the bars. I mean, the coronavirus did something that was never done. It was always said that during a depression, these things will be open. The liquor stores, the supermarkets, the restaurants. Those tend to be the biggest investments made by men. The coronavirus closed it all. The coronavirus basically broke the illusion that society will always be there. It will always be running. You can't even go outside your house now. Supermarkets are closed at random times. You can't go to a restaurant to eat. But you know what you can do? You can rely on yourself. The biggest thing the coronavirus did, plus you add in the red pill community, MGTOW, and so on, and then you have the coronavirus. It woke man's inner survival instinct, and there won't be no going back. Because a lot of men have realized that I can't count on having a relationship. I can't count on the judicial system to give me a fair trial. I can't count on the voting process. Now I can't even count on society to function during a coronavirus. It's reawaken man. Now what you have to do to live by absolute law of logic is look at the animals. Look at look at nature. The law hasn't changed. You need food, shelter, an environment where you can thrive, and of course, you need to be able to gather resources. That's all it is. I mean, you gathering, you trying to get more money and so on, that's you trying to gather more resources. The law of nature hasn't changed. And with the coronavirus, if a man still accepts the illusion that society will be stable and always will be there for them, it will die. The laws of nature are simple: adapt or die. And when it comes to logic, that's how you gotta live. You have to remove, as I previously said, further back on this video, you have to stop seeing the world through your feelings. That was the main goal of the government by removing the father figure, was to remove the fact that men could think. I mean, think about it. Whenever someone asks you a question these days, you say, I feel, I feel, I feel. You're supposed to say, I think, I think. And when you describe your feelings about something, it's about how you truly feel, versus everything is guided by your feelings. So to become a logical man, and I'll have to make a more detailed video, but in all essence, you have to start living by the one strike rule. All it takes in this society is one strike, and you're finished. One strike. One strike, all it takes is an accusation, a false this, a false grape, false this, a false that, and you're done. So you have to start living, and I'll start making a video about the one strike rule. But this has been Hold the Truth Hostage. Remember, if the truth was so important, we would hold the truth hostage and not negotiate with lies. Have a good day, gentlemen. And this is just the beginning. I'm gonna be making far more videos. We're gonna go deep and dive.